we are going to make a to-do list, PostgreSQL database. For this, we are using pgadmin like this. Make sure you make a note of your password. That's the most important thing if you install it. It's just like any other normal install. I'll put the link in the description below. And we're going to make a to-do list. You're going to be able to add items in the to-do list, which you'll be able to see. It'll make a very simple table in Postgres with the ID number and a title. You'll be able to add titles into this database. You'll be able to edit them, which is the update, and also delete them. So we're going to be working on the CRUD features, which is create, read, update, and delete. Create a folder. Let's call this to-do list CRUD. Next thing is to open up VS Code, create a new window. Go to File, New Window, and you'll get this. Drag the folder you've just made on your desktop or documents or wherever. Drag it in VS Code, and your whole setup here is now looking at that folder. In VS Code, let's open up Terminal, new Terminal window. Next thing, for this, we are going to be using node.js, and the modules that we're going to be using for this is going to be body-parser, EJS, Express, and PG, which is for the Postgres database. So let's start setting this project up. This will initialize the node project. There's npm init-y. Okay, hit that. One thing we want to add at this point is just to make sure that the project is running off the modules that we install later on. Just under main index.js, put type and module. This will make sure that the project is referencing the modules that we install now. Let's install the modules that we will be running this project off. Back to the terminal window, npm install, and let's type body-parser, EJS, Express, and PG. Once you hit enter, it will install all those packages, and we have a folder in our project called node modules. And also in the package.json, we can also see that these are now installed, ready for us to use. Body-parser is a module that helps us retrieve variables from the front end. Express.js helps us turn our files with EJS at the end into HTML readable files that the browser can understand as HTML. Express.js is going to help recognize our folder setup for our CSS files and other assets and images we want to add. It will give the proper directory to that. And PG is going to help reference the database that we're going to be using, which is Postgres. Let's create our index.js. Before we do this, I'm going to create all the folders. On the root level, we want a public folder. Okay, in that public folder, we're just going to be working with the styles. So I'm just going to make a styles one. I'm going to make index.js, which is going to be our main backend server, supplying all the variables and information from the database to the front end. So this, let's create the index.js. I'm going to type in touch index.js. Okay, as you can see, that's created there. Next thing, I want to create a index.ejs, which is going to be the front end HTML, which the index.js will send everything to index.ejs. So if we go back and make another folder called views, and let's go for touch views index.ejs / index.ejs. Okay, that's going to create a files. That's going to create a file called index.ejs, and it's going to create it in the views folder. And we're mainly working with these two. Let's just create a simple boilerplate for the index.ejs and see if we can get something working. I'm going to start off by just doing an exclamation mark and enter, and I get this in VS Code. I get this kind of simple boilerplate template for an HTML document. I'm going to change this to do list. That's going to be the title. This, let me save that, and in the body for now I'm just going to write hello world, h1. Okay, so now we're in index.js, and the idea is to render the index.ejs. So I'm going to start off by importing the modules that is going to help us with this and just do a basic setup. So we're going to import Express from Express, and we're going to import body-parser from body-parser. Make sure you get the camel case of the body-parser, body-parser on the second one. Import PG from PG. Now let's create the Express app. It'll be const app equals Express, and we're gonna also make a variable of our port, which is going to be 3000. So const port. We're going to set up the body parser so we can read variables coming in from our HTML, and we're going to do that by app.use bodyparser.url encoded extended true. And now we are going to use the Express.js to set up our folder structure that we just made earlier. And to do that, we are going to type in app.use express.static public in inverted commas, and that just sets up this folder system here. So we can read the CSS files that we're going to put in style, and we know that the CSS files are going to be in the public folder. That's how the project knows. We've made a port of 3000. We are going to make the app listen, make sure it's listening on that port, and we're going to run console log just so we know. To do that, we are going to app.listen port, and we're going to put console log, and using the tick for this one, so we can put in the variable tick open tick server running on port, and we use the $ and the curly braces to put our variable straight in there like that. I'm going to render the index.ejs as the root of this project. Okay, and to do that, I'm going to make app.get, and we specify the root by the just a /, and we're going to use the rec and the res functions. Okay, so it looks something like that, and we're going to do a very simple rendering. We're just going to write res.render. It's going to be res.render index.ejs. If the user goes to the root level of localhost 3000, we will render this file index.ejs. We've got the basic project set up. We're going to run this project with nodemon. So in the terminal, type in nodemon index.js. Let's run that. To get to this address, I'm going to open up Chrome and type in localhost 3000, and that is my hello that I have rendered in the index.ejs area. And I can prove that and with the nodemon, you can keep nodemon running. It will update without having to restart the server. So I've just changed index.ejs to hello world v2, and if we refresh our page, we see we've got the v2 come there. Okay. Next thing, let's just set up our CSS file, just so we might want to make a few. I'm not going to go too heavy on the CSS. I'm just going to use it to make a few changes here and there, just to make it easier to view the information on the page. Really, I'll start a new terminal, and it's going to be in public. It's going to be public styles, and it's going to call main CSS. So let's go touch public styles, and the file is called main.css. Just to make sure that's working, let's just see if I can change the background of the body. Background color, let's have something quite ridiculous just to see. I'll save that, and that didn't turn up because what I need to do is I need to go into my index.js. We're going to type in the head, we're going to put link, relationship is the style sheet, and the href is styles/mains.css. If we save that, we get our ridiculous background of blue. Okay, so we know that's working, and we're going to be using the CSS file just to help visualize our data a bit more. let me go back to main CSS, and for now, I'm just going to comment that out, save it, and go back to here. Okay, in my index.ejs, I want to send a variable from the index.js to the index.ejs. I'm just going to send a very simple variable, a string, to be into the to replace that title. So the way we do that is index.ejs and put a comma and space in curly braces, and I'm going to call this variable list title, and I'm just going to pass a simple string into that variable called list title, and it's going to be called to-do list. Now in my index.ejs, I'm going to put this variable in the h1. I'm going to get rid of hello world v2, and inside the h1 I'm going to grab that variable from the server, list title. So now the h1 should, if I save everything, should be this to-do list. List title, I'm going to make sure you've got the spelling correct. Yes, we have. And let's do a refresh, and we've got an error. So let's go and check this. Tile, I did a spelling mistake. It's called list title. It's good to come across these because then you get more familiar with exactly what you're doing and what's going where. Okay, so we need to put the equal sign in to say the variable equals this. There you go, to-do list. We have the title. Next thing we want to do is create a database in Postgres. All right, when you get there, open up your servers, go to your database, right-click database, and create a new database. Okay, I'm going to call this one to-do list. Let's type it out. So we're going to be create a table called items, and the first column is going to be called ID, and it's a serial primary key, comma. Column 2 is going to be called title, and that's a varchar 100, and we're going to set it to not null. Okay, that table has created. Now let's just refresh this and have a look. Refresh the tables and then go into view, edit all rows, and then we can see our table's been created. Now once we've created the table, let's just put some data in so we've got something to work with when we're making the front end and the back end in VS Code. So to do this, I'm going to add another query in the query tool, and this one I'm just going to add 2 values to this table. Okay, to do that, type in insert into items. Let's call it title. So we're going to insert into the title column, and the values are going to be, let me just think of 2 things that I need to do. One is make a tutorial, something else I need to do is make digital products. Okay, let's hit this, and if we view all our rows in the items table, you can see that we have now 2 values, make tutorial and make digital products, and they both have IDs. Back to VS Code, and let's see if we can render this information into our web page here so it appears as a list. Okay, we go back to VS Code, and what I'm going to do, firstly, I'm going to query the database and console log to see if I can get my 2 values that I've just inputted in there, and then we'll worry about rendering it out to the web page in a bit. I just want to check my values and my communication with the database. First of all, I want to establish the connection using the PG module that we installed earlier, and to do that, under this Express static line, I'm going to make a constant called db, and it's going to be a new instance of the PG client. Let's test this to see what we're going to get back. In our main route, I'm going to query the database. I'll make a new constant and I'll call it result, and that will be await db.query, and this is going to be the query here. we're going to select everything using the star represents everything from the items table. This items table is coming from this database here called the to-do list, and we're going to order by ID in ascending order. Let's close that off, and we need to declare that this function is asynchronous. So put async up here, okay, and that red line should go away. So now what I'm going to do is, first I'm going to show you how this information is going to come back to us. Let's do a console log of the result. Okay, I'm just going to save that, and when I press refresh on the web browser, it's going to trigger this function again, and we're going to get a console log printout and see how our connection to the database went. So press refresh here, go back to VS Code on the node mon, and look, we've got all this information has come back. But as you can see, we don't want all these fields. The one thing we do want is this rows. To drill down into that, I'm going to put .rows, press save. Now I'm going to run that refresh again, and let's just see what we get. Refresh, and look, we've just got the information we want. We've got the ID1, which is make tutorial, which is what we put in, and we've got ID2, which is make digital products. So that is how the data is coming to us from the database, by using result.rows. And let's just double check that it is what it is. Yes, it's ID1, make tutorials, ID2, make digital products. That is working fine. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this in a try and catch block, and I'm going to render it out into the index.ejs. So first let's try, and we'll put this constant, we'll put everything up in there really that we've just done. Let's put the whole thing into try, and underneath we're just going to catch the error. So we'll write catch, and if we get an error, it's very simply what we're going to do, we're just going to console log that error so we can see what it is. Now instead of having this console log, I want to turn this into a proper variable that I can pass into there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another constant. I'm going to call it items, which is going to be result.rows. Okay, I'm going to keep this console log here just so I can keep checking the items that I'm getting back from the database. Now I have my title. I'm going to make a new variable that goes to index.ejs, which is going to be called list items, and that is going to be my items from here. So the way we do that is create the new variable called list items, and that is going to contain all the information from items. There's this items here. So it's going to be an array. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create that array beforehand. So I'm going to create the array beforehand, which is going to be global. So now I have all this information, ID number and the title, it's going to get sent to my index.ejs file. Let's look at that index.ejs and see how we can catch this variable. I'm going to make a class of box and ID of heading, and let's push all this stuff up. And this is where I'm going to catch. The first thing I'm going to catch is going to be the item title. But before I do that, I'm going to make a loop. It's going to loop through all the items from that list items variable. To open up the for loop, I'm going to write this. I'm going to write for let item, this is going to be a new kind of item made on the fly here, of list items, which is what we sent from the index.ejs. And inside here, I'm going to create another div, which is going to have a class of item. Okay, I'm going to push this down because there's many items, there's many different parts of this item which we're going to try and work with here. And to close off the for loop, I'm going to use syntax like this. So now we have this div set up. First thing we're going to catch is going to be the title. And I'm going to make an ID, which we're going to use later. So the ID is going to be called, for the first one, it will be title1. That's the ID of this paragraph section, which we're going to use later. And in the paragraph, we're going to quite simply grab, make a variable item dot title. Now let's see if our front end is going to catch this. Our front end being this. Let's save this and let's save our try block as well. Okay, all we have to do, there we go. We have a list coming to the front end via the index.js server connecting to the PG admin. Before the title, I want there to be a delete button. So let's write delete and comment that out. Then I'll have a title. Then after the title button, I want to be able to edit. So let's have an edit, comment that out. At the very bottom is going to be our add button. Let's go down here and write add and comment that out. Okay, so we've done the create, we've created the database and the table. We've done the read, which is reading the title from the database. The next thing is the update. I'm going to add an add button. It's going to be a form and I'm going to give it a class of item as well. And the action is going to be /add. So when this form is submitted, it will go to index.js, the /add route. And the method is going to be post. For this button, we're going to have an input field, which is going to be a type of text, name, new item, placeholder, new item. Let's turn autocomplete off and autofocus true. Close that tag. The next part of this form is going to be the actual button. Class, add, type, submit, name is list, and the value of the list is going to be the list title. I'm going to save that and refresh. Okay, we have a new item, input box, and add. Nothing, does nothing yet because we haven't put the route in. So let's do that now. It goes to /add by the method of post. So the way we convey that here is by saying app.post/add, comma async rec and res. Okay, so that's the basic layout. Let me show you how the information from here, what it looks like going through this bit of code with the submit and the value, the name and the value. Okay, because we're also sending this is going to be list, this is going to be the value title and name, new item. Text will be under new item. So we're going to grab this information using body-parser, okay? This module that we imported up here. So let's do a simple console log and let's grab it by the rec.body. Save that, okay? And let's write here, hello. See if it goes through. Yep, so press add and here we go. Here, new item is called hello and it goes in the list to do. So that's the actual list title to do that we're sending back, but the new item is called hello. So now we have that. The next thing to look at is let's insert this new item into the database so it makes number 3. Okay, let's extend the add request and add the required lines. So the way I'm going to drill down more into the body so it's just the new item. So I'm going to write constant add item equals rec.body dot, and if we copy this, we know we definitely spelled it right. Now we can move the console log down and let's console log this add item variable. Okay, now I'm going to write something else. Go back to the root. I'm going to write goodbye. Press the adds to submit that. And as you can see, goodbye is here. So that's working. So now I have to query the database and put this variable, whatever it may be, as another row in the database. To do that, I'm going to start off with the try block, try, and I'm going to await db query, insert into the items table in the titles column, value, this value, which is add item, which is this. Then I'm going to res dot redirect to the root, and I'm going to catch any errors here and quite simply console log them. Okay, let's see if that works now. And when I redirect to the root, what it does, it jumps back up here, reads this function, and goes through this whole try block again to get a new selection of items with the new item that's just been added. Let's see if this works. Back to here. Okay, what do I want to do? Make lunch. Yeah, and it works. It comes back on the list, and if we refresh the items in the database, we can see there, make lunch. It's just been added. This is great. Now let's work on the update. Let's work on the edit function. Our edit button is going to go here. Now, this edit button is a little bit more complicated, but I'm going to go through it step by step. First, let's create a form with a class of edit. Action, it goes to the /edit via post. Okay. Now, first, I'm going to put the hidden fields. So when we click on the edit, this box, this field here is going to change to an input box with this information in the input box for us to edit, and then we're going to have a button to press done, and when we press done, it's going to send the newly edited information back to update this in the database. Actually, first I'm going to put the button in. That is the done button. It's got an ID. I'm giving it an ID of done plus the ID number, class of edit, type is a submit, and it's just simply going to say done on the bottom. Then outside the form, I'm going to have another button. This is going to have an ID of edit plus the ID number from the database. Yep. And it's going to have a class of edit. And on the click, it's going to call a handler, a JavaScript handler with the item ID. And in the button, it's just simply going to say edit. So I'll put these two buttons in, and I just want to see if it works on the HTML page. How does it look? Okay, so we've got the edit buttons underneath the titles. What I'm going to do, this is an opportunity to put some CSS to help us see the information more clearly. So first, let's uncomment this. Might use this body tag and put display of flex. Let's have direction, flex direction as column. Justify content stretch and min height 95 VH. Okay, gives it a bit more spacing. Also, while I'm here, I'm going to change the font. Helvetica New. Okay, so as we see, everything in the for loop has a class of item. So we're going to use .item and we're going to display flex. Okay, that's got them next to. It's got the next door. Let's sort out this height. Let's align everything in the center. And while we're at it, let's do a border at the bottom and just give it a light grey. And let's just add a bit of space here from the paragraph. So get to the paragraphs by typing in P, and let's give it padding of 20, 0. And let's put a margin left of everything in the form. There you go. Just spaces it out a bit for us to carry on now. Let's get these edit buttons to work. Go back to index.js, and if you see here, I'm going to add two hidden fields. One is going to hold the value of the item ID, and we're just going to call that item ID. So we're getting it from the for loop list items. The other hidden field is going to be an input, and the input, the text is going to be the value. Name of the value will be updated item title, and the value of the name is going to be the actual title. Okay, so on click, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these two are going to be hidden, these two are going to be shown. I'm going to add some JavaScript right down here at the bottom. Right at the bottom, just before the end of the body tag, I'm going to write script, and I'm going to put this function in. What this function does, when the handler is activated on click of the edit button, it's going to grab the div which has an ID of title plus the ID number. So the ID with the title, then the number of the ID in the database gets set to hidden. If we go up here, we find the ID with the title of the name. This paragraph will get hidden. Okay, the second line, the ID called edit and the number from the database, from the primary key of the database, will also be hidden. So let's look for the edit ID. There, we've got an ID of edit and the number from the database and the ID from the database. So it switches the hidden elements with the shown elements when you click on this edit button. So let's test that out. Save that, and I'll refresh this page, and when I make lunch, it goes to that. I'll change that to dinner, and I'll press done, and it doesn't show it because we haven't completed the step at on the server level. So it's still reading make lunch. So one thing I might change at this point is the input field. I might want to add a bit of CSS just so it looks a bit better at this stage. Let's align it left. There you go. So it kind of jumps out a bit. Okay, there you go. Just so it's clear. Okay, so let's send this. So at the moment in the EJS, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make a root, which is going to be //edit with a method of post. So we do that like we did the others. app.post / edit, and let's just grab all the information from this edit post by console log, and we'll do that by rec.body. Let's see what we get. Save that, go back a level, refresh. Let's just call it digital products. Done. Okay, here we go. This is what we got. Updated item 2, updated item title, digital products. So with this information now coming from rec.body, we will use this updated item 2 to get the correct item from the database and change the title using the ID, the primary key of the ID, which we're going to update with this updated item title variable. We get the variables from the HTML file. We query the database with the two variables, and we say update the items table and set the column title to equal the first variable, which is this edit title, where the ID is equal to the second variable. Then we redirect to the root, and it does a whole new query and kind of like a page refresh, and it should include the change. Let's try that out. So if I go back to here, and I'm going to change makes tutorial, so it's number 1 in the list, make tutorial to just tutorial, and you see it works. And if we go to our database, let's hit refresh. Now let's view all the rows, which is kind of like a refresh as well, and we can see make tutorial has turned into tutorial. So that is now working. And the very last function is going to be the delete function. Now, if we go to our index.js, you can see we have a little space here for the HTML delete button. So let's grab that. So I'm going to write this code now. I'm going to make a form, and the action is going to go to /delete. That is the root we will write in the index.js, and the method is going to be post. Close that, and inside this form we'll put a button, and we'll call the class of the button delete. That'll be useful for a bit of CSS later. The name of the ID, we're going to capture the ID in this variable, and we're going to call it delete item ID. It's going to have a value of equal to the item.id. Let me just close that, and let me just go through this. We're making a button. It's going to hit the delete root in our index.js, and we're going to make, as we pass over this, we're going to make a variable called item delete item ID, and it's going to have a value of the item.id. Let's save this. Let's just see how the button turns out. Okay, so it's there. Let's just put 20 pixels of padding. I'll go to main.css, and with the class of delete, margin right, 20 pixels. Save that, reload. Now we've got a bit of space. Okay, so, and the delete button looks okay. You press on it, and we go to this page because we haven't created the root yet. So let's do that. Just double check what we're getting. In fact, the best way to do it, because we know we're hitting a delete route in index.js. So let's go straight ahead and make a delete route by writing post/delete. It's going to be async with the rec and res functions, and let's straight away console log the body by using rec.body. Okay, save that and make lunch. Let's see, I'm expecting, yes, rec.body, delete item ID 3. That's all you really need. You just need the primary key. So we know which one of these in the list. So it's this one, make lunch. This is the one to delete, and this is how we're going to delete it. Let's create a variable to hold this as a number by itself. So I'm going to write constant delete ID equals rec.body. I'm going to copy this bit so I know I've got the right one. Okay. Now, this will just be a number now. It will just be the index. This will just be the primary key number that I'm getting for it. Let's test it. Remember, the more you test, the more you know exactly what you're getting. So this is going to be 2, because the second one in the list, make digital products, has an ID of 2, and if we go back to here, if I press delete and I go back to, we got the number 2, which is the ID that we want to delete. Now we can write a try block and query the database with this number of the primary key of the row that we want to delete. So it's await db.query, and let's open the brackets and the inverted commas, and we're going to say delete from the table called items, where the ID is equal to the first variable in the following array. Okay, and we just have one variable in that array. It's called delete ID. And then after that we res.redirect to the root again, which acts like that page refresh, reloading all new data. And let's catch any errors. Again, we'll print them out in console log. That's it. Let's see if that works. Save index.js, go back to my root. I want to delete make lunch. It didn't delete. This needs to be square brackets to signify an array. Let's try again. Delete make lunch, and it's deleted. And if we go to our database and reload the rows, it's deleted. So that was the main part of the tutorial that I wanted to get to know. I wanted to show you how to do the CRUD operations for a database by making a simple to-do list here, and we did it by adding new items which get added to the database, edit items which get updated, and we can also delete items as well. So that's it, and you can download this project at the GitHub. Check in the description for the link and have a play about. Expand on it. You've got everything set up. You've got the CSS here to do more work. I hope you found this helpful, and stay tuned as I'll have more tutorials coming up. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Goodbye.